Hello, I'm Ronnie Eldridge, and welcome to Keeping Relevant. My guest today is the Bronx Borough President, Vanessa Gibson. She's the first woman, the first African American to have that honor. I watched the State of the Borough, speech, and I fell madly in love with you because I loved it. And I loved your silver dress. But what I loved more about it was the way you presented the agenda for the year and the attitude that I got from listening to you. It was great. You went through the whole list of everything you're going to do. And it seemed to me small business people were very important.
So we talked in our State of the Borough, and affectionately it was during March, the month of Women's History Month, as the first female borough president. Really an honor to serve the residents of the borough, and it's my opportunity to just make a difference and make sure that the borough is the best that it can be. And we are a borough of opportunities. We are a global destination from our historic districts, our landmarks, our greenery. We are the greenest borough in the city of New York. And I want to make sure that there's a space for all people to prosper. Our children, our families, our older adults, and certainly our small businesses. Small businesses are the heart and soul of our city, the fabric and the foundation of our communities. They are led by, entrepreneurs that provide a service, that provide jobs, that stimulate the economy. And we want to make sure that they not only strive, but they thrive. So we have a very ambitious small business economic development agenda, working closely with our Bronx Economic Development Corporation, the Bronx Tourism Council, and BICNY, making sure that we invest in MWBEs. We look at development opportunities like the expansion of the Metro North, expanded ferry service, everything we can do to make life better for the residents and families that call the Bronx
So
home.
you can see why I thought. All right. And you have now a new director of that project.
Yes, we do.
I remember him, I think, from Union Square, which was before the city. Anyway, so you should have a lot of good. Do you think that most small business owners live in the borough?
Yes, they do. Many of our small business owners live, work, and raise their families in the borough. They are homegrown. Many are generational and legacy businesses where it started out with grandparents and now the grandchildren are running it. From the eateries along Arthur Avenue, right, in Belmont to City Island, and its historic knowledge of seafood and everything that all of our restaurants bring. A lot of our commercial corridors, 3rd Avenue, Fordham Road. It's really a beautiful mosaic of different cultures, ethnicities, different eateries, and different cuisines that you can enjoy.
Right. Because you're the first African American borough president, I guess I hadn't realized that the majority of the population is Latino.
Yes. A borough of different cultures and nationalities, but obviously the county of the Bronx is predominantly Latino. There are many people that speak multiple languages, but the dominant language being Spanish. Many are bilingual. There was a time years ago when most of the Latino community were Puerto Rican, and now we've seen a growth of Dominican Americans, Mexican Americans, Colombians, Garifuna, who are from Honduras and Belize, and they're called Garifuna Americans. We've seen a beautiful mosaic of just different places from Europe and Spanish-speaking countries. But I think it just speaks to our credibility as an elected official. When we ran on a campaign for borough president, we were able to get an incredible level of support from African Americans, from Co-op City to Concourse Village, Jewish Americans from Riverdale to Pelham Parkway, as well as the Albanian community in Little Albania. We were able to get the Latino community as well. So it's been a really good experience representing the Bronx.
And how big is it, the Bronx, compared to other boroughs?
1.5 million residents, so we're not the largest borough, but we're not the smallest borough either.
Is Brooklyn the largest?
Queens.
Queens is the largest.
Queens, Brooklyn.
Right.
Manhattan, then the Bronx.
Right. And how many, you have a couple of colleges up there?
Yes, we
Universities.
do.
Right.
We have 3 public colleges, Hostos, Bronx Community, and Lehman, and then we have private colleges as well. Manhattan College, we have the College of Mount St. Vincent, we have MCNY, Metropolitan, we have Boricua, we have Fordham University, just a beautiful representation of higher educational institutions.
In the Yankee Stadium.
And New York Yankees, and the new Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
Yes, not the original house
What
that
happened
Ruth
to
built.
the original stadium?
The original house that Ruth built was demolished many years ago. My predecessor in the city council, Helen Diane Foster, and the city council at the time voted on a new Yankee Stadium, which is what we have today.
I used to go to the old one. I was a great Yankee fan when I was in high
We have some
school.
artifacts from the old stadium.
Oh, really?
Old seats.
Okay, that's great. Well, and they were much less expensive.
Yes.
They were, you know, and they had Women's Day periodically, I think almost once a month or something.
Okay.
And you'd go for practically nothing,
Okay.
like 50 cents or something like that.
Wow. Oh, no, it's much
Right?
higher now.
But you also have another large, what I call it, the Armory.
Yes.
It's the largest armory in the world.
It is. And it's been vacant for many years.
30, I think.
30 years. And over the last several years, it's been used as a military base. We used it during COVID to distribute food and vaccine and other medical supplies. But it's been vacant, and it's owned by the city, by EDC. And we are very adamant about reimagining the Armory.
Why are we having so much trouble doing that?
I think because some of the proposals have not been in the best interest of the residents. I think there are a lot of multiple angles, from the community stakeholders to the faith leaders, the CBOs, health organizations, the colleges, the bids. Everyone has a stake in the Armory. But what I've done working with Councilmember Piedina Sanchez last year, we formed a working group with EDC. So we got 4,000 ideas to date.
Yeah.
We have a website called togetherkingsbridge.com, and we've been able to really put together a real comprehensive set of plans. So we're going to release that before the end of the year on Kingsbridge Armory.
So you're a big collector of people and putting them together.
Yes, I am.
That's the best way to do things, isn't it?
I believe it
Coalitions,
is because
collaborators.
Right. You need collaborations, and you need credible messengers at the table. You do not make these decisions by yourself. And I need a village. So I have a maternal health care task force. I have an HIV/AIDS roundtable. I'm creating a task force on diabetes and fibroids. I am creating a Bronx Youth Council that was started by my predecessor, Bob Abrams, years ago.
Oh my gosh,
in the borough. And we are developing a task force for people with disabilities, and July is People with Disabilities Awareness Month. We have a lot of advisory boards, and really the goal is to make sure that we bring together think tanks, educators, stakeholders to come up with ideas on policy, advising the borough president in a real comprehensive way, and everything that we do is aligned with my strategic policy and our blueprint.
Yeah, it's an amazing.
It's a lot.
Right, and the birthing centers. I'd love
Yes.
to talk about that.
I am excited.
We're so much in the news about the difference in mortality rates and everything that we talk about.
When we talk about health care equity and justice and patient-centered care, we want all women and all birthing individuals to have access to birth workers, doulas, and midwives. But what we've seen over the last several decades are women, and predominantly women of color, African American, Latina, and Asian American women, have historically been denied access to life-changing and life-saving health care, and the system has not been equitable. It's an injustice if a woman is not able to get prenatal and postnatal care, and we've had unfortunate tragedies where women have died during childbirth. It's unacceptable. So we believe that we should create a Bronx birthing center, because we don't have one today. There are other boroughs that have a birthing center, and the Bronx does not. As the first female elected borough president, I'm intentional about getting this done.
Right.
It will get done.
You know, I just remembered while we were talking a case that we have. There was a young woman who had trouble nursing, and she had nobody to advise her. She went someplace and they didn't help her, and the baby died, and she was indicted for murder. I remember this. And we formed a committee to come to her defense and get her out of there. And she's now fine, and she's got children and very happily married and everything. But can you imagine being in New York City and not knowing how to nurse your baby? I mean, good luck to your birthing centers. It's
Thank
going to be
you.
great.
It's so unfortunate. I often say, if you know better, you do better. And for so many women, access to patient-centered care, wraparound services, trauma-informed care, it is really difficult. Women are underinsured, they're uninsured, they don't have the language access, there may be cultural differences, they need to be able to get to and from medical appointments. So we've been working with hospital providers and FQHCs, a lot of our health centers, and we've been meeting clients where they are, doing health and wellness checks, going into communities that are hard to reach and talking to women in a way they can understand. Bilingual staff is important. You need them to look like the community they serve.
Right. Can you imagine not having? How do you relate to the community boards?
Oh, the community board. So I make all of the appointments, all 600. We have
boy.
12 community boards. I do it in partnership with the local council member. They make recommendations and we ultimately appoint members to a 1 or 2 year term. It's a volunteer position. And we're going through that right now.
It's not forever, it's just a 1 or 2 year terms?
Well, term limits was now instituted as a result of a voter referendum, but that won't take place until 2027.
And that's for all boards?
That's for all community
good.
boards.
Thank
so
you.
right now you can serve in perpetuity, but you just have to get reappointed every 2 or 1 year.
So tell me about the summer concerts you're having and what the problem is.
So the summer concerts is something that's been a tradition of the Office of the Bronx Borough President, historically held at our Riviera, which is Orchard Beach, which attracts 6 million visitors every year. And every borough president has held summer concerts in July, August, and September on Sundays from 1 to 5, predominantly serving the Latino community, so Spanish artists, salsa, merengue, bachata, and we've kept it up. This is our 2nd year, and we're starting on Sunday, July 9th. And the only difference for us this year is the pavilion at Orchard Beach is under renovation, $100 million that started last October.
Oh, boy.
So we don't have access to the pavilion. So we are working in the parking lot. We're starting on Sunday, July 9th with our first concert, but every Sunday thereafter through Sunday, September 3rd, Labor Day weekend, we will travel and be at a location in the borough at a park.
So you're worried about people who are used to going there?
Yes, they're going to be really upset. Probably at me, but it's not my fault. We need the pavilion to be renovated.
Yeah. Tell me about Orchard Beach.
Orchard Beach is a beautiful, beautiful representation of all that the Bronx is about. So many Bronxites have gone to Orchard Beach. It is our only, city beach in the borough. And beach season, it attracts tourists and beachgoers alike. We have events, we have concerts, we have picnics. People just go and enjoy the weather. So the fact that we're renovating the pavilion is a long overdue process. And $100 million we were able to successfully get from all levels of government, including my predecessor, Ruben Diaz Jr. So once that's done, in about another year and a half, we're going to go all around and renovate the entire Orchard Beach.
And how is that doing? Is the sand disappearing?
No, the sand is still there. The beach is still open. But I will say people have asked me about the bathrooms. You never thought bathrooms would be so sexy. But people want them renovated too.
Oh, good. Of course. Why not? I used to go clamming. Can you believe that? We would dig up clams when I was in high school. That's many years ago. But that's how Orchard Beach is in my mind. What plans that you have for housing and what are you going to do about it?
Absolutely. Housing is a fundamental right. Affordable housing should be accessible to everyone. For many families in the Bronx that are renters, they are rent burdened. They spend more than 30% of their income towards rent. And we have a lot of good landlords that provide a service and are good neighbors, but we have some that are not good neighbors, and that's unfortunate. The Bronx has seen some of the most horrific residential fires in modern history.
Oh, that's right. You
From
had that bad
Happy Land
fire.
to Belmont to Highbridge, and most recently, January 2022, Twin Parks. We've had fatalities. Some of them have been because of space heaters that were faulty, lack of heat and hot water. Some of them have been other catastrophic things that have happened. But what I've learned is new opportunities with new housing means solar, energy efficiency. It means looking at ways to modernize our infrastructure. The city is an aging infrastructure. These buildings are very old. So where I can help landlords renovate buildings, I do and will. HVAC, new roof, a new boiler, new elevator. It makes a difference, right? But the new buildings is where we have a lot of opportunity. Large scale apartments for families that are growing and making sure that we're looking at diversity across the borough. The same neighborhoods should not absorb affordable housing, and other neighborhoods have to do their fair share. And that's something that I'm very intentional about doing as borough president.
And have you had such an occasion?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I have. We've had a lot of projects we've supported in areas, whether it's Highbridge, the South Bronx. We had a very controversial rezoning in the Throgsneck community that was met with a lot of resistance. It was only 350 units of housing, but it would have upzoned the area from a low density designation that they had for about 20 years. But we realized in 20 years, the neighborhood has changed. There's more opportunity. There are more homeowners. There are different homeowners in terms of their ethnicity, more businesses that are being attracted, more schools. Everything that happens in 20 years in New York City. So we want everyone to have an open mind when it comes to development, but it has to be done in a responsible way.
How do you get an open mind?
You have to get people to see sometimes beyond their circumstance. You have to get people to see that we are a beacon of opportunity for others. And just as many of our residents have gone through pathways to home ownership, we want other people to have that same pathway. We cannot have an attitude that's a NIMBY approach, not in my backyard, and say yes in other communities and no in some. That's not fair, because I, as borough president, I represent everyone, whether you voted for me or not, whether you like me or not. I am the borough president, and I have to make decisions on behalf of 1.5 million residents. Not one, but 1.5. And that's something I take very seriously every day, because I know you may not like my decision, but most people respect the decision because they know it's done with love, it's done with compassion, it's done with equity, and it's done with fairness.
And participation.
Yes, and participation.
Yeah. Where did you learn all of this?
A lot
Did it
of
just
it
come naturally?
A lot of it I learned from my internship when I was in the New York State Assembly. My political mother and mentor, the late great Aurelia Green, gave me a lot of guidance, and I watched her as an elected official.
And how did you get the internship?
I was a student at the University at Albany, and senior year 2001, I applied for an internship so that I could fulfill my credits for graduation. And I was accepted, and I was assigned to work for Aurelia Green. She was an assembly member from the Bronx, well respected, a lot of seniority in the assembly, and it was a great experience working for her.
And internships are so important.
Yes, and it was paid.
Oh, that's really important. So you worked for her?
Yes, I did.
And then after you graduated, you worked for her?
She gave me a job. I was a broke college graduate, didn't know what I wanted to do. All of my friends went back to New York City. I decided to stay in Albany, become a resident, and she gave me a job.
That's so interesting. Just like that, you
Just like that.
Yeah.
She was great.
So you served in her office.
Yes, I did.
And then when she retired,
Yes.
you ran.
Yes,
Very good.
absolutely.
So you've had an easy time.
It was easier than others because I had the support that was there for me. She used her name and her reputation to carry me to the victory line, but I did the work. The challenge was I was an office manager and no one saw me as a candidate because they loved Miss Green and they couldn't imagine her leaving office. She was a legacy, and when she started talking about me and really creating that narrative that this is my protege, this is my mentee, I want you to support her like you love me, that's what got me over the top. And now as a mentor, I mentor young ladies and I'll say, support her as you love me. It's the same thing.
Yeah. And you then, when you ran for re-election, you really ran well.
Yes, it was much better because now they knew I was the assembly member.
Oh, you were?
Yes.
Right. And then, so you were up in Albany.
For 4 years.
Yeah. And what made you come down here?
So there were term limits in the New York City Council.
Yeah, but they weren't term limits in the assembly.
No, but I looked at the opportunity to serve the community in a larger way in the New York City Council. It was a chance to be home and not sleep in a hotel for 6
important.
months
That's a very
out of
important.
the year. And the City Council had a lot of resources that I did not have exposure to in the New York State Assembly.
Do you represent a smaller number of people if you're in the assembly?
Yes, the assembly
district is
district was
small.
about 130. The City Council was 170.
Yeah. So you ran.
I ran and I won.
Did you have a primary, a big primary?
Oh, I had a primary. I think initially there were 9 people that filed petitions, and then after petition it got down to 7. And I ran as the assembly member. I was still the assembly
that's true.
member. A part of the district was in the council, and I didn't think I would win. I always doubted myself, but I had Aurelia Green at my side. I had Ruben Diaz. I had so many people supporting me, unions and everyone that saw my work in the assembly, and I won. And funny story, I was working for Aurelia Green while she was in the assembly before I ran for her seat in 2009, and she pushed me to get my master's degree, and I went back to Baruch College. So I always give her credit for that because I probably would not have gone to grad school.
So she really mentored you.
She really did, as a daughter.
Yeah, that's terrific. So do people mind that you pay so much attention to women?
I mean, I think the voters were excited about me running during the campaign for borough president. They kept saying it's time for a woman to step up. We've never had a female borough president. I think there was
it's amazing.
There was a growing momentum because at the same time in 2021 when I was running, it was also 21 and 21 that was created by Melissa Mark Viverito and Elizabeth Crowley that wanted to get 21 women elected to the city council in 2021, which they were successful. They got 30. And they met their goal and exceeded it. And it was around that same momentum when Kamala Harris became our vice president. We saw Ketanji Brown Jackson becoming a Supreme Court justice, first African-American woman. So there was a lot of momentum of women stepping up. And I fed off of that, and I took it and used it as a catalyst, coupled with my experience and my track record of state and city experience. And I think that's what gave me the edge in the race for borough president.
But when you're in the borough hall as borough president, you like women's issues.
Yes, absolutely. But I think I try to strike a balance. So I talk about women's issues, reproductive freedom and justice. I talk about healthcare. I talk about issues that are important to families, to children, to older adults, to the LGBT community, people with disabilities. I talk about all the issues I know that matter. And sometimes I may talk and forget about an issue. People will remind me, don't forget about the veterans, don't forget about domestic violence, don't forget about our children, and that's fine. I think the reality is I want people to look at my office and see the work we do and see themselves in it, whether it's the staff I hire, the community board members we appoint and reappoint. All of the different advisory boards, working groups we have are a reflection of the borough in terms of ethnicity, gender, profession. We've been able to find the greatest level of talented individuals, young people, seasoned residents to bring onto our office, because we need the seasoned talent, but we also want the new emerging leaders with the fresh ideas as well.
So how do you do all of this?
A lot of it is having a great staff. I was very blessed in the city council to have an amazing chief of staff that I brought with me to Borough Hall.
Yeah, you talk about your team.
Yes, my team is amazing.
Yeah, and so they're very loyal.
Yes.
You're very loyal.
Yes.
And they work together.
Yes.
It's a collaboration.
We are a team. I have 70 staff. I went from the city council staff of 5 to 70. So that was a huge learning curve.
And you know them all.
I know them all. I know everyone by first name. I know what everyone does. I know the units. I've taken a lot of time in the first 6 months of our tenure to learn about the office, the physical office, what it looks like, who does what, who's in what unit. And we shifted staff around. Some staff had been in positions for a long time and wanted to do something different. They wanted to grow. So we shifted. We brought new people in. We created job responsibilities for every member of the team. We developed a guide in our office in terms of a description of what we do, the city charter. We really revamped the office of the Bronx Borough President. My goal is to make that office better than how I got it, because that's the way it should be with every new borough president. So I'm just preparing the office for my successor.
And then what are you going to do?
So everyone's talked about that. I think, 2 years into this position, I run for re-election in 2 years, and by charter, I can only serve consecutively for 8 years. But there's always talk about running for higher office. People have talked to me about public advocate, about mayor, about U.S. senator. I mean, people love to gossip. They love to talk about ideas. But I think for me, it's something internally that I need to feel that God is calling me to do. This is a spiritual connection for me. It's a calling. And I don't want everyone to say, do this, do this, do that, if it doesn't feel right for me. Because no matter what, I can have the support staff, the circle. But at the end of the day, this is the work that I need to do. So this needs to feel right for me.
So nothing has done that yet?
No, nothing yet. No, nothing has sparked my attention yet.
You should be a teacher too, right?
I love teaching. I really do. I love talking to students and kids.
Yeah.
I do.
And as you put these things together, you are teaching. I mean,
That's right.
It's not every citizen that gets called upon to help with some other group or something.
Yes, that's right.
And did you learn that from Everly Green, or did you just discover that yourself?
A lot of it I learned from her, but also a lot of it has been me just creating a circle of different support staff and other advisors, and helping me. Every campaign I bring on new advisors, but I learn something new every day. And one thing I try to be as an elected is humble. I am not that high on the pedestal that I can't look around and help bring someone up with me. Climbing the ladder but lifting others with me is important to me. It's important to have a trusted group of individuals that I support, that I know have my back, because there are many people that didn't support me that now want to be my best friend. They're in my face, and they will be quick to put the knife in your back. And you cannot, you can't think everyone in your circle is for you, right? And you have to learn. You have to be able to learn who is for you and who's not for you.
You have to trust us.
You have to trust as well.
Right. And when do you have time to buy the sparkles in all your clothes?
So I try to find downtime. Honestly, downtime is hard. Evening events, I have a lot of. The summer season, I have a lot of events, block parties, family days. My downtime most often are the weekends, Saturday evening and then Sunday after church. As long as I don't have a parade or there's not a church anniversary or another parade, I usually have Sunday afternoons for family, for friends, try to travel, but it's really hard.
It must be hard. Well, you know, we've come to the end of this, and I still love you. So.
Thank you, thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
And I think the people of the Bronx are very lucky, and I hope that you will just make the city better, that you work with other, we didn't even talk about working with other borough presidents and planning things and stuff like that. So I guess maybe you'll have to come back.
I will come back.
All right.
I have a great relationship with my VPs.
Oh, good. Thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you
Gibson.
so much. Thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you.